Hi, darling. You lunching in or out?
In, but out. I mean, I don't need any lunch.
Hello? Oh, Deirdre, listen...
This is the home of the Maclaren of Maclaren. Donald Maclaren is the laird of the clan, chief of the name. 2 floors up, and a few doors down, is the home of the Cockburn family. Patrick Cockburn is the son of author and journalist Claude Cockburn. Jan, his wife, is a Montefiore, daughter of the Bishop of Birmingham. Their son Henry is 4. Donald Maclaren is a Highland laird, his wife Maida a Scottish lowlander. They live here with their nanny and 3 children.
Over 4 hours, Greenwich Mean Time. BBC World Service presents News Desk.
Chernobyl. There is still little confirmation.
But this is not a block reserved for the aristocratic and influential. It's a block reserved for foreigners. The Cockburns and the Maclarens are foreigners because this block is in the center of Moscow. Almost all foreigners living and working in Moscow must live in such blocks. They're easily identifiable by the cardboard box at the main entrance. It contains a militiaman, a Russian policeman, an effective barrier between the residents and the natives. The residents may travel freely, but their brightly colored number plates identify their country of origin and their profession. K010 is a correspondent from Denmark. D001 is a diplomat from England. K007 is a correspondent. 007, unfortunately, is France.
Fighting between rival black groups in a squatter camp near Cape Town has killed 13
Patrick Cockburn is a K001, like his father, a journalist. He's Moscow correspondent of the Financial Times. Donald Maclaren is a D001, a British diplomat, first secretary in Chancery and press attaché at the British Embassy. He still occasionally wears his old-school tie. It's a privilege Patrick could share as they both went to the same public school.
He is about 3 or 4 years ahead of me, in school terms. He's a distinctive figure, and also was an unusual character. Distinguished himself from the others by being more academic, more detached from the usual run of school matters. I have a dictionary, a Greek dictionary, and when he and Jan came round for supper, I produced this little black book with sellotape bindings, and gave it to him, and he said, "Do you remember this?" And I said, "No, never seen it in my life before." I said, "Well, you better open it up." And there was the list of 5 or 6 people who'd gone through that form. There was P. Cockburn, 3rd on the list, and D. Maclaren, about 10th.
Patrick's memories of Donald, however, are not so clear.
You never know anybody at school in England, because he's 2 years younger than me, and the one thing you're trained to do is never talk to anybody who's younger than you. I mean, it's like the sergeant's mess. You're never allowed to talk to a corporal, and it's compromising if you do. Therefore, you never know anybody. I remembered him slightly, and also he's the first person I met having arrived in Moscow. Arrived off the plane, and there was a notice on the board inviting me to a party at Reuters, where I then met Donald, who said we were at school together. He then went and fried me an egg, which was nice.
There are few such perks of the old boy network here in central Moscow, especially now, as this is just 3 days after the first news of the Chernobyl disaster. The embassy has already evacuated the British students and tourists in the area, but the diplomats and the journalists and their families are staying behind to keep our government and our people informed as the situation develops. There used to be a large and thriving English community permanently living in Moscow. In the 19th century, the Smith family of industrial engineers lived here in what is still called Smitovsky Street. And where there's an English community, there's a Church of England. It still exists, though now it's a recording studio for the state recording company Melodia. There were even botanical gardens. Fallen into disuse since they were first laid out over 100 years ago, they have recently been somewhat revived by the building of the International Hotel nearby. Nowadays, there are few permanent British residents, and the interests of the British who are temporarily in Moscow are looked after here at the British Embassy. It was once the home of a Tsarist merchant, and the British diplomats will soon be moving to less romantic accommodation. But for the moment, here, immediately opposite the Kremlin, is a little patch of England. But it's not an easy place to film. This is the services section. Here, military attachés monitor the Soviet armed forces. It's a sort of legalized espionage, and you're not allowed to film it. When you can film embassy business, you discover that much of what you may record is either confidential or prejudicial to the interests of national security and must be removed.
And would be grateful if an could be issued for the following to be carried by the accompanying for the visit of the British Inter-Parliamentary Union delegation, full stop. Paragraph.
It's not just the sound that can be a problem. I've got a beard. I'm a tall fellow, 2 meters. I'll be there. Yes. Bearded at the embassy. So if it's possible, we'll meet there. Okay? Maybe there'll be a problem, maybe not. We'll see. Here, the British consul, Bill Somerset, is talking to the wife of a Soviet dissident who has reportedly been held in mental institutions for the last 17 years. He's arranged to escort her from the street into the embassy. But unfortunately, as this case is still unresolved, it's not possible to reveal the identity of either the wife or her son. And when you can show what the diplomats are doing, they don't seem to be doing anything. For the diplomatic service, prudence, it seems, is the better part of valor.
I believe in adopting a fairly prudent attitude to somebody who could obliterate you. The Americans could obliterate Britain, the French could obliterate Britain, the Chinese could.
You'd have to do that anyway.
The Russians could. We have to make a decision who is more likely to and who is less likely to. And it's only prudent to see where a potential danger lies and to work to either diminishing it or defusing it, and ideally getting rid of it altogether.
But can diplomacy actually achieve anything?
It has to achieve something in Moscow. Moscow is one of the places where you need diplomacy above all. That is, if diplomacy means speaking to somebody else, trying to understand what worries them, what they're up to, what they want out of you, and relying on personal contact rather than perceptions through newspapers or propaganda, occasional visits. Diplomacy is extremely important in Moscow.
Yes, but does it work? Will it work?
It works to the extent that we're not at war with Moscow.
Not a conventional war, perhaps, but there is a war of words. The journalists are in the front line, and the ground rules are constantly changing.
It became easier quite soon after I arrived. I arrived in November, beginning of November '84. The defense minister, Ustinov, who was one of the top 3 or 4, died 2 months later. Chernenko died in March. And things changed very rapidly after that. Before that, you see, what was the most common question to any Soviet official who any Western reporter, diplomat met which was to say, is the leader alive, and if so, how alive?
Information is hard to come by here. There's not even a Moscow telephone directory. Journalists must depend on the TASS news agency, a network of unofficial and often secretive contacts, and each other. The image they portray is, therefore, a little wide of the mark sometimes, and that can be a surprise even to another journalist.
The surprise I heard after I'd arrived was, politically, it was much less repressive than I thought it would be. Less people in jail, and they don't often shoot people. In a country like Iraq, if the government considers that you're violently opposed to its policies, you stand a very good chance of getting shot. That's not true here. In Beirut, or even Tehran, life is coloured by the chance, often a very small chance, that you may be kidnapped or killed or hit by a shell or something. The worst that could probably happen to me here is to be expelled. That means it's much easier to bring a family here. There's no reason to be too tense here.
But the families of journalists and diplomats are sometimes less than entirely enthusiastic about the idea. Donald Maclaren's wife, Maida, however, knows that it's a problem that comes with the job of diplomatic wife.
Moscow and I have a very stormy relationship. And I mean, I say that advisedly because Moscow has a character that you don't expect. I mean, we were in Berlin before, or London, that you don't actually expect cities to adopt in quite such a dramatic way. Yes, they do in rather trashy but very successful novels, but not really in life. It really can be very nasty. And we have all got ourselves into this ridiculous rut of either thinking that Moscow is wonderful or appalling, but it's true.
That's for voting.
I expected tiny, cramped flats, and I expected constant surveillance. Everyone that I ever spoke to before I arrived here said, golly, the only thing that really was going to upset them about Moscow was the fact that you couldn't make love without actually having the people listening in. That is the least of your problems. You never think about it. After the first 2 weeks, you don't think about it. For the first 2 weeks, it cramps one's style a bit. But after that, you don't think about it. That is really the least of your problems.
Pigs are making the bacon!
Maida Maclaren and Jan Cockburn live in the same block, and they share the same problems.
And pork chops.
I'm never entirely convinced that they listen in to everything we say 24 hours a day. And if they do, they'll learn a great deal about Western childcare. And if they want to hear me saying sort of, do you eat up your Weetabix Henry, or reading Ladybird books, well, actually I think the longer I've stayed here, the more I've come to like it. When I first came here, I didn't know any Russian at all. My Russian is still kind of, it's not even dog Russian, it's pig Russian. I found it difficult the first couple of months, getting used to being here, getting used to the family life, getting used to living as part of a foreign community, sort of slightly colonial existence.
They shop at the Central Market, the only place where you can get a choice of fresh produce. This little bastion of capitalism is one of the many unexpected features of communist life.
The surprises were the surliness and the hostility on the streets I'm talking about. It's not always hostility. That's not fair. It's not fair on them here. They have one hell of a life here. And they see me sauntering in dressed in Western clothes with my nanny in tow and my 3 children and scooping up God knows how many loaves of bread and whatever else is going and swanning out again. Their view, not mine. They don't like it. Well, why should they like it? They don't have that.
No, wait, no, darling, we have to pay for the damn things.
When you take your child round a supermarket in England, then suddenly, well, not just suddenly, this sort of simplicity of Russian life seems absolutely splendid. I mean, you don't have children sort of whining, saying, can I have a this, can I have a this, can I have crisps and whatever, because the things just aren't there.
Wait a minute, I don't...
And actually, the absence of adverts here is something I like. I mean, some of the adverts in Britain I enjoy, but a lot of them I don't. It's sort of nice not to have endless pictures of naked girls trying to get you to buy this, that, and the other. I appreciate the absence of that here.
Under the musical eye of Nanny, the children play in the courtyard. Cut off from the native population, cut off from any contact with the country in which they live. It's a way of life that colours your judgment.
I have stepped off a plane at Heathrow and gone straight to a dinner party in Pitt Street in London, and there's a group of people there saying, "OK, Maida, what's it like in Moscow?" And you phase over. You come from another world, you can't cope. You can't explain to them that sitting in the taxi coming back, you went through such massive culture shock, you're barely able to speak at all. London looks small, grubby, dirty, small, mostly, because, God bless it, everything is on a human scale. Nothing here is on a human scale. They don't want it. It's in their history, it's in their literature, they don't want it. And you can't cope. You feel like saying, well, go try it yourself. Also, 3 years ago, you were like them, lukewarm liberals. Most of us, let's face it, from our background. You go back, you could head Polaris.
Partying is a great relief from such military ambitions, and any excuse is good enough. The arrival from London of the Sunday Times editor Andrew Neil is a better excuse than most, and the Praga restaurant has been booked for the occasion.
Oh, hello, Chris. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. Hello. Hello, Andrew Neil.
There's still little hard information about Chernobyl, so this is a chance for the journalists to exchange gossip.
Heard rumors last week about women who are 3 months pregnant and so on, either having been advised to have abortions or simply it's a panic situation in that sense. Voluntary.
Abortions here anyway. So it wouldn't take much to put the abortion rate up.
What, it's about 10 abortions in the average?
I don't know what the rate is.
I've heard about 10.
This is the world capital of hypochondria, and suddenly people can attribute all the many diseases they've thought they've had for years to Chernobyl. Anything in it?
Yes, maybe.
Christopher Walker of The Times.
Depends if he pushes anything from the EC about the disaster. No, I mean he might.
You mean an EC thing rather than a NATO or
I mean, he's the first Prime Minister.
Brian Hanrahan, BBC Television.
I suppose he'll have to, really. But whether he'll actually admit the answer or not is another matter.
This character today was, you know, saying a few things, but it was interesting to see him. I mean, he was the guy who'd actually designed the thing. And he looked extremely sort of perplexed.
When was that?
This was a little briefing at Novosti this morning for American and Japanese journalists that I posed as half American and half Japanese.
Is this that Charles Bremner saw last week?
Some Russians are also invited, and they come. The main advantage of events like this is the spectacularly generous food and drink on offer to all. The art, it seems, is to consume as much as possible, as quickly as possible, as discreetly as possible.
Well, you must have been drunk to understand your Russian.
Diplomats also attend, though some of the conversations they hear are not entirely diplomatic.
Radio Moscow has done so, they do cultivate BBC accents. It can be misleading just for a couple of minutes.
You can always tell, if you're trained linguistically, you can always tell there's a slight difference.
It's not quite right. It sounds more like Edward Heath or Mrs. Thatcher. It's not quite proper public school English.
A more suitable place for relaxation is the British Embassy Dacha. Incidentally, the only person not allowed to use it is the British ambassador. Donald can and can invite friends like Patrick and Jan. But it's not a place to which you invite Russians.
The big news was that Mr. Chernenko met a foreign dignitary, which was news showing he was alive, and talked for 30 minutes, showing that he was sort of extra alive.
It's pretty well impossible to combine socialising with Soviet citizens and socialising with the expatriate community. So you can do it, but it's a major sort of organisational hassle. And after one socialises to have fun, to enjoy oneself. So you have to divide the two. The expatriate community is dominated by diplomats, and diplomats socialise in a particular way. often in a rather dull way. Not necessarily because they're less fun than other people, though many of them are a great deal less fun than other people. There are a very large number of social occasions which are really professional occasions, except you invite people to dinner rather than inviting them all to a meeting. So there's no particular reason why anybody should enjoy it, and often they don't.
At the moment, nobody is enjoying a new rumour that milk and eggs in Moscow have already been contaminated by radiation.
I mean, it is horrific because the husbands are relaxed. They are getting the information. For the rest of us, we have to accept this information. But is it everything? This is what I want to know. Is it absolutely everything?
What did say the British embassy? You got the message from American embassy?
Yes.
From American people. And
yes.
What did say the British embassy?
I don't know. In fact, I shouldn't be saying this on the microphone. I don't know. I've heard all sorts of different things.
And you don't worry about radiation. I heard from your wife.
No,
yeah?
There's no point in worrying about things until you know what the evidence is. One telephone call doesn't change a bloody thing.
It changes everything.
It doesn't. You've got to follow it up. See whether it's true or not. There's no point in freaking out until you know
There's no
what's
point
true.
in knowing the evidence 24 hours too late.
What are you going to do, ring the American embassy now?
I don't need to ring the American embassy because I've heard exactly what they've said.
Well, you've heard it second-hand.
From people who I can rely on absolutely.
Absolutely. It's honest people. I phoned immediately home and I said it, my maid.
It's unbelievable. God knows what the hell we're doing here unless people are making ultra sure we are very, very safe.
Not everyone can relax. Mikhail Gorbachev is breaking the silence on Chernobyl, and the BBC is hard at work. Natasha, a Russian allocated by the Soviets to work for the BBC office, is translating her leader's comments to Brian Hanrahan, the BBC television correspondent, and to Peter Ruff, the BBC radio correspondent. Peter has only 20 minutes to collect his thoughts. The World Service audience will expect a response in the next news. Brian Hanrahan has 2.5 hours before the 9 o'clock news in London.
Hello? Hello? Yeah. What time are we going on? Okay. Yeah, I'm getting Q program, thanks. Okay.
Nothing more, Talia? Nothing, nothing
No. Surgery.
Mr. Gorbachev emphasized that everything had been done as quickly as possible to take action to cope with this accident, and he said the political leadership had been informed as soon as possible. Mr. Gorbachev also gave new casualty figures. 7 people died, he said. 299 are in hospital suffering from the effects of radiation.
Even as he speaks, more information is coming in on the TASS and Reuters machines. Suddenly, after an information drought, comes the flood.
And this is clearly a message to the world that he wants to use the nuclear accident to help East-West relations. This is Peter Ruff in Moscow. Yeah, it's a piece of cake, isn't it?
Every morning at the British Embassy, the senior staff meet with the ambassador to discuss developments in all their sections. This morning, the ambassador himself has important news of a parliamentary delegation arriving from Britain.
Well, a few points first of all, before we go round. The IPU visit, Lord Whitelaw is bringing with him the Prime Minister's reply to the message from Gorbachev, which Sam Yatin delivered shortly after his arrival in London. And so I've been asked to try and fix up for him to deliver it to Gorbachev in person. And I launched that on Dr. Suslov, the Second European Department. And what I hope will be possible is for there to be 2 calls on Gorbachev. One for Lord Whitelaw alone with me, and a second one for the delegation as a whole. So that's what I'll be going for. I was also able to take up with Suslov the points on Chernobyl, which were outstanding, namely press him for replies to the detailed questions we submitted on the 30th of April.
At the American embassy, another, if different, meeting is taking place.
Yes, Jim. Only beer glasses, said the giant.
Maida Maclaren works here for the American Infant School.
Reading glasses, said Jim. They go in your nose and your ears. It's my eyes I'm talking about, roared the giant, banging his fist on the table. We'll finish this tomorrow, okay? It's time to go outside. Okay? Everyone, we'll finish it tomorrow.
Tradition, it seems, is still important to the expatriate community. This is Patrick's son, Henry, and this Donald's son, Florian. Like their fathers, they go to the same school. And it seems they get on just as well as their fathers did.
But Henry, it's my
Could you give it to me, please?
It's my short though.
I think that it's Henry's.
Anya.
Come on, Anya. I'll carry it then. Since it's
Don't cry, it's Henry's sword.
Boys.
Older children are shepherded in diplomatic buses and cars to where they continue their studies behind the high-wire fences at the Anglo-American school. Who is being fenced off from whom is not entirely clear. But not all Western children are so extravagantly protected from the rigors of Soviet life. This is a Soviet school, and this mother is an English journalist, Kate Clark of the Morning Star. She doesn't live in a foreigner's compound, but in a Russian block with Russian neighbors. She speaks fluent Russian and has distinctly Russian problems. Her flat is on the 9th floor, and the lift isn't working. She does, however, have a commitment to comfort her.
I'm a communist, and I'm living in a socialist society which is trying to build communism. So for me, I don't feel that there's any conflict. For the other journalists, I think it is a difficult job being a correspondent here in Moscow. But nevertheless, I do feel that the overall picture that they give of the Soviet Union is very one-sided. Whether that's their own fault, I'm not sure.
No, Pussy, you're tired.
But there must be a conflict, because I'm sure they don't always want to paint the Soviet Union in a negative light.
Stop it. Stop it.
On the other side of Moscow, in the same block as Donald and Patrick, the voice of the BBC's World Service, Peter Ruff, not a Russian speaker, has a different view of his professional responsibilities.
Delicious. As an international correspondent, you're not here to be a local newspaper correspondent. But what you do have to do is to keep your tabs not only on the main political story, at the moment East-West tension, arms control and so on, but you have an obligation, I think, to keep on top of these people who desperately want to get out of the country. We would be failing them if we didn't occasionally report them.
The Western journalists do not mix with ordinary Soviet people. They don't mix widely with Soviet society because they consider that it's a very small minority of people around the dissidents, the so-called dissidents. It's a tiny minority. If they actually went out and spoke to Soviet people more in a friendly way, without prejudice, they would find that the vast majority of Soviet people are very supportive of their government. Something that you can't imagine being British, I mean, to get so much support. That's what I find, and that's what I write about. I don't see the point in writing about less than 1% of the population, I mean, a fraction of a percent.
There is a myth in the West that somehow a foreign correspondent can walk out of this flat, walk down the street, and immediately take the pulse of the nation. In most other countries in the world, that is perfectly acceptable. Here, they are not given the raw material to make a full judgment about what's happening in the world. So If I spoke absolutely beautiful Russian and walked down the street and saw someone and asked them, well, what do you think of Reagan's latest bombing of Libya? He will quote for me effectively chunks of Pravda or TASS. I can read that anyway.
In a society where information is hard to come by, the rumour is alive and well. The rumour today is that there may be a demonstration against nuclear power here in the Arbat Street. What is certain, given that rumour, is that the Western journalists will be here.
This group can't have expected to last, I suppose, more than a few minutes, but the fact that they...
But the fact they did it all on the phone seems to indicate that...
Well, the fact that the way they spread the word, too, is, I mean, they need the cameras to come, but they know if they come that it won't last very long, I suppose.
What's a foreign correspondent frightened of is enormous front-page headline story in Times, Guardian, in my case, New York Times, saying Gorbachev going to do something or other. But so I went to bed that night, didn't report it. So you're frightened of missing a story, but you're particularly frightened of missing the story which other people haven't missed.
I mean, I don't know how long they lock them up for.
If all the Western journalists are going to be here, then the KGB will also be here.
There's 3 more of them.
This is growing in numbers.
They look fairly obvious, I must admit.
Why trees? Why isn't there somebody... Well, I thought there was a one over there. There's a little group around this corner here.
Yeah.
Who specialise in light tan shoes.
The KGB, it seems, still tend to work in threes. The story was that one can read, one can write, and the third is there to keep an eye on the 2 intellectuals. Patrick Cockburn of the Financial Times and Christopher Walker of the Times don't expect to have to wait too long before other journalists begin to arrive.
Good
Okay.
evening, gentlemen. I'm here.
Ladies.
Let the proceedings start.
Well, we've been waiting for you to come, now we can get underway, I suppose. There seems to have been a run on the local umbrella shop by large gentlemen with various things on their shoulders.
To be fair, not only the KGB favours umbrellas. These 2 gentlemen are Americans, and they're certainly not journalists. But whether you're KGB, CIA, BBC, or the FT, waiting for a spontaneous demonstration in the Soviet Union can be a long process.
Again, what you're
I mean, I didn't see how they're going to get here.
Well, you've noticed this part of the street, people seem to be quickening their pace as they walk down it.
Yeah.
The rest of the street is rather crowded. But there are always rumours here. The Soviet Union is the great country of rumours. Very detailed rumours, very specific, saying what's happened in Chernobyl, in Kiev, top of the Politburo, what Gorbachev said to Mrs. Gorbachev on Monday week. You can always get stuff like that. It's all rubbish.
There's a man from the KGB who's got a lot of photographs of it. There's loads of them.
Yeah. As the KGB updates its photo album, it's worth noting that there may only be a slight difference between what we regard as investigative journalism and they regard as espionage.
Hi, Mom. Can I get a I don't think this is a no-show. I think we're going to go home. See.
Okay. Cheers. The problem about reporting here, and you can see that in the books that people write when they leave, and a lot of their reporting, is people get off the plane here and start making value judgments before they collect their suitcases. Some of these value judgments are true. Most are false. 80% there isn't adequate evidence.
Getting off the plane on this occasion is the IPU delegation from London, a visiting group of British MPs led by Lord Whitelaw and the Right Honourable Dennis Healey.
We asked people in the court. Yeah.
As the cavalcade of black Volgas whisks the delegation into central Moscow, Donald Maclaren puts on his press attaché hat to deal with the visiting and none too happy journalists.
Hello. So, Mr. Vine?
I am not me.
I know, I look.
Are you're Mr. McLaren?
Donald Maclaren, press attaché.
Yes, hello. Brian Vine.
Good to meet you.
Daily Mail. This is Mr. John Ellison of the Express.
You do?
Donald Maclaren.
How do you do?
Good to meet you.
Hi.
Is it just the two of you?
Yes. Yeah.
Because
the delegation, has that left for the town, city?
They have. They just got off.
Catching them up.
No,
this is rather divisive, this separating two senior pressmen from the delegation. It's hopeless. We can't.
Well,
we have to handle with local.
Getting through customs.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They do sometimes.
Today it was quick. It can't be 2 hours.
Yeah. Did you see an ITN crew on the airplane?
Yes, they're hiding in there, trying to get the cameras and luggage and things.
They're still being cleared through customs?
Yeah, I think so. No, they're not being cleared through customs. Only the pros are being cleared through customs.
When important Russian politicians are moving around Moscow, they tend to do it in style. Western journalists have a good ear for such movements, and they soon discover that a high-powered meeting is on the cards. They want access to it, and Donald Maclaren is the man that can give it to them.
Hello, could I have Donald Maclaren, please?
The main thing, Patrick, is that there are, in fact, only 10 people going to be allowed in. So we've got to now make the decision of how the split is going to be between the resident and visiting correspondents.
As the minor meetings progress, Donald meets with the head of Chancery to discuss who will get the 10 passes for the Kremlin meeting.
One or two of them already know that the thing is going to sort itself out at 2:20 outside the Spassky. So unless we have a meeting and work out in some dignity and privacy who's going to get the things, there's going to be an unseemly wrangle on Red Square.
Yeah. Well, I'm not telling them yet to go to there at 2:20, because as soon as I tell them that, they'll expect to get in.
Well, some of them already know.
The real problem, as I see it, is with the visitors. ITN will have a particularly strong claim unless they reach a pooling arrangement with BBC.
Ditto the journalist visitors.
Yeah.
I mean, they've come all this way, they will expect to be there.
Yeah.
But I don't know, what about the resident team at all?
Certainly gave us an excellent lunch when we were there.
I think we ought to draw up a list of everybody who is known to want to go.
Yeah.
And then we'd better work out in our own mind. I gather Charles doesn't think a meeting's a very good idea.
No, he doesn't, because it's going to end up in a great...
It'll be a devil of a fight.
He says an executive decision from here is much the best. I'll speak to Brian first.
Have a word with Brian, and then can you come in and we'll sort this out, because I think we're going to have, the ambassador will have to put his chop on it, because if those chaps from the Express and the Mail are going to be excluded, there's going to be a devil of a stink. And also there's the question of the coverage. I mean, the MPs will want to have a good deal of coverage fairly instantly in the British press.
They won't want visitors to... Hello? Oh, hello. Can you hang on a second? I'm glad you're on the phone. Hang on.
How the hell did that get there? God knows. Anyway, you better take that and then come in for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
ITN, with its usual persistence, has managed to get through to Donald on an open line.
It's reasonable to say also that our bulletins are seen by 10 million people, which is about 3 times the number of their combined readership of all their papers.
Yeah, of course, that falls down on the argument, though, that if it's pooled, that the 10 million people will still see the pictures.
Well, yes, but the same would apply to if their stuff is pooled.
Yeah.
Exactly the same argument.
Okay. Bye. Hello? Yeah?
Brian Hanrahan of BBC News isn't far behind.
Hello, Brian.
As the delegation are taken on a cultural tour of the Kremlin, it becomes clear that for the meeting with Gorbachev, there's only one more pass to be allocated either to the Times, or the Financial Times, or the Morning Star. Donald becomes unavailable to journalists because he wants them to draw straws, and the idea must be put to the ambassador.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I can foresee a result of that particular ballot which would cause great angst, and understandably too.
But if it's a ballot taken amongst themselves rather than an executive decision by us, the angst will be amongst themselves, right?
If they agree to that, has it been put to them yet?
Yeah.
If they agree to it, well, that's fine. I mean, they take a 2-to-1 risk. But I would have thought that, well, obviously, I mean, one outcome is much more preferable from our point of view than another.
Yeah.
The ambassador has his own suggestion to make.
Could we get hold of the Times and the FT and ask, try and persuade them to come to an amicable solution between them?
One about the other?
Well,
we could do.
It'll be one or the other, won't it?
Yeah.
And then the Morning Star is excluded.
The Morning Star, I'm sure, will have no difficulty in getting its material from local sources.
The Times, the Financial Times and the Morning Star all arrive at the same time, all hoping to get in.
Let's see the slaughter of the Maclaren take place. What? No, we've already spoken to Maclaren. Has he got any more tickets yet? He's trying to give you tickets. What? He wants to give you a ticket. He doesn't. He wants to give... He wants to give you a ticket. He wants to give everybody a ticket, as far as I can see. Well, I guess he's completely unfair. We've had a word. He said if they... Because he said earlier that people from London would get tickets, but others wouldn't. So I suggested to him that, obviously, they had to bring the bureau to London and to cover Moscow, effectively. Donald!
Well, nothing yet. Nothing since we last spoke.
So we've still got to fight it out. You're not going to put the tickets in a...
I can't now.
How? I don't see why not. Is there some hidden...
No, there's nothing hidden. We'll have...
The delicacies of the situation are best explained out of earshot of the Morning Star.
No, there's a possibility of extra passes, but I'll only know that once the man's here.
Oh, I see.
Kryukov. Yeah. I asked for an extra 5 on the hope that we might at least get a couple.
Oh, I see.
He said he'd meet me at 20 past, so we've got another 5 minutes.
Right.
I take your points, Christopher.
But I don't see why we should be in this, really, you know, because the Daily Mail want to muscle in on it, you know. And
The allocation of passes leaves the television news crews with a cameraman each, but no engineer.
Visiting correspondents, resident correspondents, and we're not excluding any category.
No, but it's not a question of excluding. It's just a question of putting our cameraman in such a position as to not be able to do his job properly either way. So it's not a question of exclusion.
But there is, as it stands at present, there's one BBC camera.
It's useless us having just one. We need an engineer in there to just sort of make sure that the recording is going properly. We can double up on the engineer.
But if you start talking about what is unfair, then you're to make your thing absolutely watertight. In other words, having a man looking for the bleeps on the recorder, you're excluding resident correspondents. And it's not a question of money because they are paid.
Journalists can at least confer on what, you know, if they want to know what Gorbachev was wearing or anything like that, they can actually look at our videotapes if that would help them. And they can certainly...
we prefer to be there ourselves
rather
than looking at your videotapes.
No, but the position is you're not going to be able to... They're not going to start discussing substantive issues whilst you're there, are they?
Worry about...
They're demanding that they should each have a separate representative, is it? Or...
Yeah. For all it is. A few seconds, half a minute's worth.
Well, you know, you were here when we went in to see Chernobyl, weren't you? And that was well worthwhile.
Not because in such a way.
I'm sorry, Donald. Honestly, we're not being contrary. This is a straightforward...
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the technical difficulties.
Kate Clark at the Morning Star is quietly confident that a pass will materialise from one source or another.
It just seems...
You know, we're not trying to be difficult. What we're trying to do is we need an engineer in there to look at the machinery.
So talking about one ITN camera, one BBC camera, one Graham Webb and one engineer.
No, one Graham Webb is not...
Okay, but I still have to keep that. One engineer to do the two of you.
Yes,
that's
To allow in even one engineer would threaten the chances of either the Mail, the Express or Hella Pick of the Guardian.
The 3 of you, plus the 3 resident correspondents, together, and draw the tickets.
Look, I'm sorry. I have not come all the way from London in order to be pushed out of this now, and I'm just not prepared to do it. And I was assured by the, you know, by Chris Mayer that if I came here, that the very least I would do would be to have access to this meeting, and I'm not prepared to abandon it.
I think
I'm sorry.
this card, which is the Soviet, I mean, that is a Soviet accreditation,
yes, but
as I
that's
understand
not
it. No, I know it's not for today, Hella, but it's to this delegation. It's a Soviet.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm absolutely not prepared.
Accreditation.
At the last moment, the Highland Laird is saved by the proletarian hero. A Soviet official has found 5 new passes.
Only for you.
And all for this. Access to Mikhail Gorbachev, but without sound. It's difficult to see what's going on, and with few of the journalists able to speak Russian, it's not always easy to know what's going on. This is simply the kind of event that any Western journalist is expected to attend. even if he's at a loss to know exactly what he can write about it. Not that he has long to decide, as access is limited to just 2 minutes. After this meeting, the delegation will leave Moscow for Leningrad. As far as Donald is concerned, they become someone else's responsibility. He can afford to relax, play a little poker, luxuriate.
Later. 5 cards straight, no wild cards, 1 change.
No wild card? No change?
1 change.
But the change is for free.
Are you shuffling these?
Nope. Hold your cards up now. Hold your cards up.
Bet on that, tell you.
I did bet.
Did you bet?
Yes.
The Russians would criticize us for being too wedded to material comforts. The Russians themselves prefer to put their weight into prestige projects. But the reality is often brought to attention even in the middle of the night when you hear lorries falling to bits on the motorway beneath your bedroom window. Every day you see such disparities. You accept them because they are very small reflections of very different societies where the systems on both sides have different priorities.
High rolling. You're right.
The moment of truth. Caca, caca. Caca, caca, yes. Why? Don't you like caca, caca? What do you have, Charles?
McLaren's got more there.
3 queens.
Why didn't you tell me 2s were wild? I did.
Did you have 2?
That's it. I was fistful.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh. 3 queens. This is all we had? Come on, show us.
In this game, a poker face is essential. In the game of diplomacy, it's quite useful too.
Seriously, the poker face now, yes. McLaren.
Do you see yourself as ambassador one day?
No.
Why not?
I might not stay in the job.
You're a first secretary at 31. You're climbing the ladder quite fast.
First secretary at 31 means nothing. Stay at first secretary for a long time means nothing at all.
You don't fancy it?
I'd like to do well in the job. In the career, it is a good career. It's very interesting. You get a number of interesting jobs. Sometimes you get less interesting jobs. But the question of the future remains very much in the future. If you start setting your sights high at this stage, you're likely to be disappointed and frustrated.
Well, Mader's already ruled out Paris and Rome because you don't speak French or Italian. Would you fancy coming back here as ambassador? Would you take it?
Yes, of course I would. But not if I was also offered at the same time ambassador in Washington.
The journalists are not relaxing. They'll be accompanying the delegation to Leningrad. There's still work to be done in the endless pursuit of information about the Soviet Union.
We've got some Chivas Regal, I think, to sort of keep the cold out.
There's always an undercurrent of tension here. It's not a very normal place for a foreigner to live. But this is the moment when one will see the degree of change that's going to happen in this society. See the winners and losers over the next couple of years. And probably then that's the moment to leave. If it wasn't interesting, then the reasons wouldn't be good enough for me to live as a foreigner here.
I know, I don't know. New man sent out to watch us.
The delegation will be leaving the Soviet Union in about a week. Donald and Patrick will also leave within a year or two, moving on to new locations, new problems, new interests.
I'll miss the interest of what's happening, the sense that it's important, always what occurs here. And thirdly, that people are interested in what's happening here. Let's say I was in Northern Ireland, and if you're back in London, people will normally, generally out of politeness, say, what's it like in Belfast? After a time, you know they're good for about 20 seconds. Beirut, about 2 to 3 minutes. and then you were pushing your luck. Here, people are genuinely interested. You can 5 minutes, more than 6.